If you're involved in the reality TV community at all, you've probably heard this conversation being had amongst online forums for a long time pertaining to shows like these. Shows like Big Brother and Survivor are well known for not really including many Black, Indigenous, and people of color in their shows, but CBS is making steps to kind of try to change that. So if you've never met me before, my name's Shelby, and today I'm going to tell you about the statement that CBS made earlier this week, the history of diversity within CBS when it comes to Big Brother and Survivor, and kind of my thoughts in the future of what these shows could be. So on November 9th in 2020, CBS made a statement saying that they're going to make a pledge to make sure that their unscripted reality TV series in the future are 50% people of color. And according to an Entertainment Tonight article, the changes are going to start being made during their 2021-2022 kind of seasons of their reality shows. And this would include shows like Big Brother, Survivor, Love Island, and anything else that may come their way. George Cheeks, the president and CEO of CBS, put out a statement saying, "The reality TV genre is an area that's especially underrepresented and needs to be more inclusive across development, casting, production, and all phases of storytelling. As we strive to improve all of these creative aspects, the commitments announced today are important first steps in sourcing new voices to create content and further expanding the diversity in our unscripted programming as well as our network." So this decision kind of comes, when this whole Black Lives Matter movement is going on in the world. And also, as of the summer and a lot recently, past Black Survivor players are coming out and telling their stories about how they were treated on the show or how they felt, during filming, post-production, all of that kind of stuff. They're just coming out and telling their stories, and they're fighting for more inclusivity when it comes to the casting of the show and the representation that the show could entail. I'm gonna link a bunch of videos and articles kind of going more into detail of this topic. I think it was really interesting just seeing perspectives that I never really necessarily understood or maybe just didn't really know about. There is, in particular, it's funny that AsToldByKenya posted a video a couple weeks ago talking about how Black people are at a disadvantage when it comes to being on Big Brother. She kind of predicted the future a little bit with what the CBS announcement is. And also, if you don't know who what Rob Has a Podcast is, Rob Cesternino, he was on season 6 of Survivor. He did not win, but he created a whole podcast network around basically covering reality TV and covering scripted TV, and just a really awesome resource when it comes to finding content for Survivor and Big Brother. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend checking that out. But they also did a roundtable with a lot of former Black Survivor players that just shared their stories, and it was just very interesting to watch. And so I'm going to link all of that stuff down below so that you can get a lot more context on what is the issue going on here and what the Black Survivor Alliance is fighting for. Just to give you some examples on what everybody is talking about right now. For example, Sean Rector, he was in season 4 in Survivor Marquesas. He was also in his article quoted saying, "If you don't think racism and implicit bias exist, tell me why Survivor Marquesas winner Vicipia Robinson has been completely ignored and never received an inquiry call or invite to even play in a season with all previous winners. And please miss me with that she was boring and not great TV BS." Subsequently, 10 seasons later, Earl Cole, a Black man, finally won, and like my sis Vicipia and Marquesas, was largely ignored by showrunners. Television, specifically the Survivor franchise, has a responsibility and the power to represent a more just and equitable playing field as a benchmark for real progress of all people, and not some concession of perceived power or standing that had to be compromised by one group to another. Other people quoted in this are Jolanda Jones from Palau, season 10, Julia Carter from season 38, Edge of Extinction, and Jatia Taylor from season 28 of Survivor Cagayan. My edit and that of so many other Black people caused me to organize the BSA, which is the Black Survivors Alliance, and move to end systematic racism on Survivor. Of the seasons I've watched, the one that makes me the saddest, makes me cry, and breaks my heart is season 14, where there were 3 Black players, Earl Cole, Cassandra Franklin, and Dreams Heard, as the finalists. The systematic and systemic racism, implicit bias, and microaggressions shown throughout the editing, but especially during the final tribal, were so hard to watch. The thickness of racism could be cut with a knife. Diverse does not mean the majority of the cast is white and a mixture of other races. And then Carter added, many people do not realize the impacts that diversity has on the game. When you truly diversify the cast, and I don't just mean sprinkle each race in every season, you even the playing field and allow every castaway the real opportunity to connect to more individuals, find allies, and win the game. Seasons like Cook Islands and Fiji, in which there was racially equal casting, should be the norm, no, not the exceptions. And Taylor agreed, saying, lazy, crazy, workhorse, and sidekick are the typical ways that Survivor portrays African Americans, but is disproportionately negative. We are heroes, nerds, beauties, and have so much more in real life. I'd like to see that on Survivor. And if you look at the history of diversity on Survivor and Big Brother, it's actually pretty astonishing, and you can totally see where everybody comes from if you just look at the sheer data of it all. So both these shows have been airing since 2000, so they have been on for 20 years, okay? On Big Brother, it has had 307 contestants, and only about 80 of those being people of color. So that's about 26% of people who have been casted on Big Brother that are people of color, and that's so many more white people. And then in Survivor, which airs twice a year, so after 40 seasons of Survivor, there have been 590 castaways, and 172 of them have been people of color, which means that only 29% of former castaways have been people of color. That's both those shows under 30% of their cast in their entirety of the show, 20 years, being people of color. Like, that's so ridiculous. You think that they would have caught on before, but, and if my research is right, Big Brother has only had 3 minorities win the show, and Survivor has only had 8 minorities win the show. Again, ridiculous. Like, that just kind of shows that there's not representation or even the opportunity for someone of color to win because you don't even put that many in there. So no wonder there's so many goddamn white people on my TV. Alright, so I think that this decision should have been made so long ago. I mean, after that sheer data, you can obviously tell that there's a lot of white people on there. And quite honestly, I'm kind of tired of seeing white people. I'm so tired of seeing, you know, just the Instagram model, hear from my followers, you know, ditzy little dumbass white girl. You know, give me someone that's got some fire in them, someone that wants to prove something to themselves and to America, and you know, just like really someone that wants it, someone that wants to play the game that's in front of them, not someone that wants to play the advertisements after. You know what I mean? Also, just to give you some examples, I learned a lot from people of color on the show. I do not have the privilege of living in a very diverse city, so this is kind of the only way I really get to know people, you know, from a show that I enjoy watching, prime time. And I can give you a couple examples of some recent people that I, you know, just really stood out to me. So you have Karishma Patel, who was on season 39 of Survivor, and that was Survivor Island of the Idols. And she was the first Indian American castaway to be on Survivor. And I remember in the show, she was talking about her arranged marriage and how she just missed her husband and loves her husband so much and can't wait to get back home to them. And here's her rock and just normal being married to people stuff. But I don't know why in my mind I don't know many Indians. I don't know many Indian Americans. I'm not exposed to that. So, you know, my perception of arranged marriage is, you know, it's like a business agreement, and, you know, there's duty there but not a lot of love. So it was cool to see, you know, just completely like take away what I thought that arranged marriage was. And you know, you see that through this woman who was so strong and so vulnerable and just a real delight to watch on the show, whether you liked her or not. Like, she was a good one to watch on the show when it came to just bringing what that culture is of her own. And that is what I want to see on my TV. I want to be educated. I want to learn. I want to see all kinds of people on my TV. So another one we have that I remember very well was Lirsa Torres. She was from season 37 on David vs. Goliath. She's a Puerto Rican lesbian. She was quirky, she was funny, she was intelligent, she was just straight up badass. And if you are familiar with that season, she was kind of part of the whole Jacketgate thing, and that was just hilarious in itself, and she totally stood up for herself in that, and she didn't let anybody walk all over her. And she is just a bad bitch, and I enjoy hearing her post-season interviews and stuff, and I enjoy hearing her insight on current Survivor seasons. I just really enjoy Lirsa, and I'm glad that somebody like that was introduced to me on this show, you know, that I watch all the time, regardless almost, you know, so it's just nice to, again, nice just to see people not like me on there. As far as Big Brother goes, somebody that really stands out to me was James Hewling, who was on season 17 and 18. He's an Asian cowboy, which I've never seen before, so it was really cool just to break down the whole stereotypes when it comes to Asians and just, you know, really give you something you didn't know you wanted. And he was actually the first minority to ever win America's Favorite Player, which I cannot believe it took 17 seasons for a not white person to win that, but it's just, you know, just somebody that really just seemed kind of genuine and just, you know, played pranks on people and was just a normal person, you know, but he's an Asian cowboy. And one of the most notable recent house guests when it comes to talking about diversity and everything. You cannot talk about this without talking about Davon Rogers, who was on season 17, 18, and 22 just recently. And her last stint on Big Brother, she really used the platform to spread the Black Lives Matter message, and she was so driven to be the first black person to win Big Brother, just to show that black people can win Big Brother. She's got crazy good intuition. In Big Brother 17, she was the first one to catch on to the twin twist. Like, come on girl, yes, you go. And you could just tell that she loved the game, so it was so easy to root for her. And she just stood for so much. You know, she's intelligent, charismatic, and just strong-willed, and you just love to see it. She was the first black person to win America's Favorite House Guest, and she was only the third minority to ever win that. Also, fun fact, she is the only house guest who has ever had an apostrophe in her name. I hope that the future for Big Brother and Survivor is really bright. Like, this is kind of what the community has been talking about, what we've been wanting, and I cannot even fathom a season where, like, could you imagine if they had, like, half black people on it? Like, that would be fucking awesome. Like, you know, just show me some goddamn inclusion and we're good. It's commonly said that shows like these are kind of like microcosms of what the world is like today. But if you are underrepresenting that much to where only 30% of the entirety of your cast throughout your whole series has been people of color, and that's including like black people, Asians, and Latinos, and, you know, have you ever seen an indigenous person on here? I don't think so. You know, like, it would be just really cool just to see different personalities, and then maybe we can trash out the stupid fucking white Instagram models and get somebody that's actually gonna play these games that we love so much, and we love talking strategy, and everybody in the community is all about it. I know I myself get very invested into it, so it'll be really nice for the conversations in the community to kind of switch from, you know, the underrepresentation of all of this and switch to, I am so happy this is happening. Look, I'm represented. Look, I see people that are like me. You know, you want to see it. So I hope we see it. And according to a Survivor Insider article, apparently the casting for Survivor 41 was done in early 2020, but because of coronavirus, it was pretty delayed. So they're kind of recasting, so I really hope that they meet like that diversity that they're looking for. And also, not just in casting, in the production side of things, there's a quote that says, as well as changes in casting, CBS is also promising improvements on the production side of things, with at least a quarter of its annual unscripted development budget being allocated to projects created or co-created by Black, Indigenous, and people of color producers. The network also plans to increase diversity across other areas of its unscripted programming with new initiatives, though the exact details have not yet been revealed. So I think all of this is a step in the right direction. I love these reality shows so much, and I just really hope that we start seeing people that aren't just stupid white Instagram models on there, and it would be really nice to see. And I can't wait to hear what you all have to say about this. Please leave a comment down below. Again, in my description box, there'll be tons of sources for all types of material if you want to watch some videos or read on it about this topic. Please subscribe or like this video if you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.